Radio Cardiff. 98.7 FM.
Good afternoon, you're listening to News, Views and Interviews on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM. I'm Jane Morris and I'm joined on the line now by Mark Thomas. Hi Mark.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am gorgeous, thank you very much for asking.
Ooh, I like that.
I think we should be positive with these things.
Definitely, I'm going to use that next time I'm asked.
I have to say though, my son gets slightly irritated by it. After a while, it does great if you're in close family proximity. It's just that he wakes up in the morning, comes down for breakfast and goes, "How are you, Dad?" And I go, "I am the spirit of spring. I am the light rustle on the autumn breeze. I am life itself." And he looks at me with, "Oh, God."
Well, that's what parents are for, isn't it? To embarrass their children.
Indeed.
Exactly. And actually, the last time I spoke to you was after you'd been walking the wall in the West Bank, and you're coming back to Cardiff again, aren't you, next month with Bravo Figaro?
I am. I'm going to the Sherman Theatre. And I'm glad I'm going there because I've sponsored a seat. Me and my missus have sponsored a seat. So we have to come back.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, wicked.
I'm going to ask the audience to stand up and look for my name.
So it's actually written on a seat somewhere?
Yeah, I should be.
Oh, wicked. So tell us a little bit about Bravo Figaro.
It's a bit of a departure in some ways. It is a show about my dad and his love of opera and a degenerative illness. And he was working class, Tory voting, self-employed builder who discovered a love of opera, which is something which is very improbable. And I hated it. I just hated opera or anything to do with it. He used to play it on the building sites when, you know, he'd be working. It was just dreadful, just the most dreadful thing. But he became ill with an illness called progressive supranuclear palsy, which is basically it's misdiagnosed quite often as MS, but it means you end up not walking properly, can't talk, can't see properly, can't swallow properly, and you basically need a lot of 24-hour care. There's dementia, there's all sorts of stuff. And as he started to disappear to the illness, I started to listen to opera. And so the show is really about that, and about a bizarre... Because somebody asked me the other day, how did the show happen? Because, you know, it's a very personal show. But what happened was I went on Radio 4's Inheritance Tracks on Saturday morning and talked about listening to Figaro's aria in the Barber of Seville when my dad would play it on the building site and how embarrassed I would be at that. And now how it's something that I really, you know, I adore the thought of. I cherish the thought of him doing it because it marks his individuality. But it was basically, I went and talked about that song and somebody heard it from the Royal Opera House and got in touch and said, "We'd like to commission you to do a show for the Royal Opera House," which is quite an improbable source of support.
Yes, it is. Well, it's kind of an improbable subject for a comedy routine.
Well... Yeah, I mean, it's not a routine. I should say this is a story. What I do is I go off and have adventures and come back and tell the story. And so the emotional and factual content is as important as the comedic content of it. And this is really, I like those areas where people think, oh, you can't normally do comedy about that, or you can't normally laugh at that situation. Because those are often the most interesting places.
Definitely. And it's not the first time that you've used your father in your work.
No. My dad has featured from day one. You know, whereas kind of like Les Dawson had mother-in-law gags, I had father gags. You know, it was my dad was essentially, in many of his views, to the right of Genghis Khan. Mm-hmm. You know, we would often have this thing that if Genghis Khan ever came back to life, he would be the voice of moderation for my dad. It is an improbable thing in many ways. But my mum, for example, you often find comedy in these areas. My mum, because my mum's my dad's carer, and when my dad was given 5 years to live, and 10 years later, he's still with us. Mm. You know, physically, he's still here. And I was speaking to my mum about this and said, you know, he was given 5 years and 10 years down the line, he's still with us. And my mum looked at me and just went, "I've looked after him too bloody well." You know, and I think you find comedy in all these sorts of places. And what we did was, because it ended up, I agreed to do this show for the Royal Opera House. if they lent me singers, if they gave me opera singers in exchange, and I took these opera singers and we did a concert for my dad in his bungalow in Bournemouth in the living room. Mm-hmm. And that's what the show's about.
So you actually put on an opera in the bungalow?
Yeah. Yeah, we did a recital in the bungalow, which was great fun. Mm-hmm. It was a real laugh. It was one of the most nerve-wracking things I think I've done, because my family, I adore them. Do you know, obviously they're my family and I love them to pieces. Mm-hmm. But our family life ranges from sort of Mike Leigh to Ingmar Bergman. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's sort of like we swing from sort of macabre comedy to tragedy very quickly. And so I was just sort of sitting there going, please don't let the Mike Leigh element of my family come out while the opera singers are here. Do you know what I mean? It'd be one of those kind of cringy moments, like a royal family moment.
Yeah. So did your dad enjoy the opera?
He did. This was a remarkable thing, was he really came back in the room and was just like, you know, because he's going blind, you know, and like this due to the eyelid muscles collapsing rather than anything wrong with the actual eye itself, because this is what progressive supranuclear palsy is about, palsy, so it's a collapse of the muscles. And he really, his eyes were open. He was like, whoa, and it was incredible to see him back with us. And I went and did an interview with him and my mum afterwards, which we recorded audio, and we played that into the show. So I have conversations with my mum and dad.
Has your dad had a big influence on who you are?
Yeah, I think, you know, all of us are influenced by our families. You know, they're the first sort of environments in which we experience love and trust and betrayal and, you know, all sorts of things, all the big emotions and themes of our lives. And so inevitably, you know, they have an influence on our work. I think anyone who's creative, you know, their relationship with their family comes out somewhere in the work. This is a more pronounced view of it. But definitely my dad's had a huge influence on who I am. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, because, you know, there's a great threat that parents can use against their children, as they get older, is, you know, to turn around and go, you're just like your dad. You know, that's a real kind of ow kind of moment. But I think certainly in my dad's work ethic is something that I've certainly sort of kept pace with. And thrift, the good, you know, Protestant value of thrift and work. I think those are the two things I've inherited from him more than anything else.
Yeah. Apart from the Tory bit, your dad sounds very similar to mine, actually, when I was reading some of the things. Especially, you know, things like his opinions on the death penalty. I mean, I've heard that saying so many times at home as well myself.
Oh, my dad was really kind of like, you know, I'll do it myself. And he would have brought... I've said before, you know, if my dad was like, they should bring back the death penalty and I'll throw the switch. And not only would he have volunteered to do it, he would have brought a spare battery and jump leads as backup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was kind of that quite a reactionary mode. But I mean, there's a very interesting thing that people, you know, who are just sort of children during the war, I don't think that people of that generation necessarily had the expectations that they would be as hands-on emotionally with their children as perhaps we are now.
Mm-hmm. To me, it seems that for them, everything's black or white as well.
Yes. There's an interesting thing about that. I think there was very much the world is black and white. It is kind of goodies or baddies, Nazis or allies. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
It is. And I kind of like the idea that, I like all those grey areas. I like the bits, because they're the most interesting bits. You know, the bits, for me, where obviously, you know, my relationship with my dad was quite problematic, but actually the fact that I could still hold those views that it was problematic and still adore him is an interesting thing. And I think, you know, lots of us deal with those complexities of our relationships with our families.
Can you imagine your son getting up on stage and putting on a performance about you and what it would be like?
He doesn't need to get up on stage. He does it if we have friends round for dinner. Do you know what I mean? He'll sort of... And here's another thing my dad did. So he's very funny. I mean, I talk about him, actually, because he does resolutely go for me as well, which is very funny at times.
Okay. So you're not all that different?
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we are very different in the fact that my dad would never, ever dream of going to see performance art. And I think there's the dividing line, probably.
Yeah. Yet he has the love of opera.
Yes, I mean, that's the really bizarre thing about it. It's a funny old thing is opera, because I don't know if have you ever been to see any?
Yeah, actually, I have. Sorry.
What did you go and see?
I saw the Mandela Trilogy.
Okay, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I really did enjoy it, yes.
There's a funny thing about opera, apart from, the fact that when you see it for the first time and the applause at the end, everyone gets a clap. It just goes on for ages, and you think, this is where the Tory party learned to withstand the boredom of the applause for the leaders. Because it just goes on for ever. And because I did the show first, I should say I first did the show at the Royal Opera House as part of this commission, and I went out and performed it, and afterwards came off, and the guy doing the technician backstage going, "You've got to take a bow. You've got to take a bow." I said, no, I'm done. I don't want it. He goes, "No, you've got to go on and take a bow because they're applauding." He said, "And seriously, they've applauded here for 12 minutes in the past. So just get on, take the bow and get off and they'll go. We can all go home early." But there's a funny old thing. And the other thing about the Royal Opera House, I've got to say, amazing technicians, really supportive, amazing people. Really sort of hard blokes who shift scenery and get things done. And not just blokes, obviously, but women as well. And backstage, they have this expression, which is toy, 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 which means good luck in opera. Instead of break a leg, you say toy, toy, toy. Okay. So on the night of the first show, when it was being premiered, the door opened and all these technicians were poking their head around going, "Toy, toy, toy, Mark," and then disappearing. But the funny old thing, I think, with opera as well is the fact that it's so artificial and yet can evoke such amazingly strong emotions.
Yeah. You took this show up to Edinburgh Fringe as well and won a couple of awards for it, didn't you?
I know, it's great. I was saying to my mate, you change the name of what you do to theatre and they give you prizes. It's marvellous.
I bet. Well, you have got a great long list of awards, though, haven't you, for lots of different things?
Yes, I've got some interesting ones. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I actually prefer the interesting ones to the... I suppose most people who get up and perform, either actors or whatever, they want to go for all the BAFTAs and things like that, but you've got much more interesting awards than that.
You want me to name them, don't you?
Well, maybe, if you want to.
I have got the United Nations International Services Association Global Human Rights Defender Award.
That one is very impressive. That
one's quite an impressive one. I went to the House of Commons to pick it up, and my mum, I didn't invite her because she was, my dad had a particularly bad spell, and I thought, I'll leave my mum, I won't tell my mum I've won this thing, and, I'll just go and cut her, because she'll go, "Oh, I want to come." And of course she found out, and so she just phones up, and there's very tense moments you have with parents and family. "How are you?" And you just go, "Okay, let's just deal with this right away. What's the matter?" "Nothing. And you go, "Oh, is it about the award?" "No, what award, love? I don't know anything about it." And it's just, you can see the minefield extending before you. So I invited my mum along and said, "Come, we'll go to the House of Commons." So she came along to the House of Commons, and there were these amazing people getting these awards, it should be said. Jon Snow was dishing them out and all of that. And it's like women who sort of were campaigning against sort of like the brutal regimes of violence to women in Mexico, and just these incredible people who've got these amazing human rights stories. And you feel somewhat of a sham, as a performer standing next to them to get these awards. In the House of Commons, though, they've got everything has got the Portcullis logo printed on it.
Yeah.
Like everything. So we're at the back of the thing, and my mum's standing there, and they announce my name, and I walk up to get this award, and I say, "Thank you very much." I pick the award up, and across the room, I can see my mum trying to put a House of Commons plate into her handbag. And I had to come off. She always goes, "Take it out, just take it out." I said, "No," I said, "Just take it out. You can't nick it. Just take it out."
Oh, that's brilliant.
How embarrassing. That's what, when I say our family's a bit Mike Lee, do you know what I mean? I really do mean it. How embarrassing. Your mum trying to nick a House of Commons plate.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. So you didn't let her nick it then?
No, I told her to put it back. I tell you what, I took the plate out. There was an ashtray in there as well.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. Okay, so the show's called Bravo Figaro. It's coming to the Sherman Theatre the 14th and 15th of November.
And it should be said, the Sherman's a fantastic place. And it's one of my favourite venues, and we always have a great old laugh there. When I performed, I did a show there once, and they had a Christmas show, I think it was, on, and they had a big revolving stone circle.
Whoa.
A massive revolving stone circle. And I said, can I start the show with that? And they said, yes. So the show started, the curtain went up, the stage revolved, this massive dry ice appeared, and I stepped out from a revolving stone.
So they're going to do that for you this time?
I don't think so.
Oh,
but
right.
you know what? They're a really great crew down there, and I'm sure the refits and the redecoration is going to be brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. Are there concession tickets at the Sherman?
Yes, there are.
Excellent.
There are concession tickets, because we had a little bit of a mistake on this, which was my fault for not spotting it. But there are concession tickets, and you can get in for a tenner. So, you know, give them a shout. If you are eligible for concession, please do come along. And it's, you know, if you're a pensioner or you know, not working or student or what have you, give me a shout and come along.
Excellent. And the full programme and the whole entire script's for sale this time as well?
Yeah, I've printed the script up, which is very funny, because it's the first time I've actually had a script.
Oh.
It's the first time I've ever written it down. And partly, because in the past what I'd do is I'd go and write a show by, you know, you can often do all this stuff. Like I'd be walking along the length of the Israeli barrier, and then come home, and I'd just get home and go to a small little venue, like a 50-seater, and just start telling the stories. And the ones that work, and the ones that kind of seem to make sense, and the ones that I think are important, stay in. And over the kind of, you know, over a couple of months, we develop the show and get it up match fit and then take it out on the road. And this one, I worked with the director and just actually got in, you know, we have got incredible sort of sound cues and stuff like that, which is quite intricate. And so the technicians were going, you just need to have a script. You can't expect us to improvise.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless them, the technicians we got are so good now that actually there's not a night when I hit the right cue.
Right.
I'll always reword it. Also, do you know what I mean? Because comics automatically find ways of tripping themselves up and trying to... Because, you know, if you trip yourself up, you find new ideas. And so we always try and do that. And my poor technician is great.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the show coming to Cardiff.
Hooray. Well, I'll see you there. And, of course, you know one of my favourite bands in the world, which is Future of the Left, our Cardiff band.
Ah,